Hi, and thank you for joining us for another session of dedication. Fans remember the Bay City Rollers, hosted by Bay City Rollers Fan Events. I'm Suze, and with me as always is my trusty co-host, Laura. Hi, Laura. How are you?
I'm good, Suze. How you doing?
Great, thanks. This week we're chatting with Susan from Pennsylvania. Susan, who was an older fan when the fandom arrived, took it to another level by going over to the UK a couple of times and even moving there for a time, all in the name of roller love. Hi, Susan. Thanks for doing this and sharing your memories. How are you?
Hi, Suze. Hi, Laura. Thanks for
Hi,
having
Susan.
me.
Sure, thank you. Well, as always, we start at the very beginning. Tell us how you became first aware of the rollers.
Okay, well, it was 1975. I had just finished my first year in college and had decided to take what we call now a gap year.
Right.
And September comes along, and I was reading an article in Time magazine that my dad had a subscription to. And there was an article about this band that was popular in Scotland and the UK, and I read about it and thought, this looks interesting. These guys are all around my age. So
It's an interesting place to read about them in Time magazine.
It was, yeah.
Well,
So next thing I know, they're on TV on the Howard Cosell show, his new show that came on in September of 75. And you know how you always gravitate to the lead singer. At least
sure.
A lot of people do.
Definitely.
And I thought, gee, he's nice. I think I'll like him for that point in time. Next time I saw them on TV, I got a better look at the rest of the guys in the band, and I thought, wait a minute, I think this guy here on the guitar with the blue eyes is kind of cute. I think I might think he's my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And
the rest is history.
for a while.
Did you get to see them in concert around that time?
Yeah, I was at their Atlantic City concert, the first one in our country.
Mm-hmm.
Saw them again at the Tower Theater in 1976 and 77.
Yeah, that was 43 years ago, a couple of days ago, wasn't it?
I know, you can hardly believe all that time's gone
wow.
by.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
All right, so then after that, what happened?
Well, it was 1977. My mom and I had gone to Europe. We had done one of those, if it's Tuesday, this must be Belgium type tours.
Mm-hmm.
That ended up with a week in London. And while my mom and I were there, I knew about Hedden Street. I guess I'd heard about it from pen pals. So
what was on Hedden Street?
They had an office and a studio there, from what I understood.
Oh, okay.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and apparently the guys were there quite often. So I thought, well, this might be a way to see one of them or more of them.
Sure.
So
Any
one of the
luck?
days I was there, it was like late afternoon, early evening, I think I went round one day. And there were other fans there, of course. And a couple of the girls said, Eric's down there in the studio. He's in the basement.
Oh,
And
wow.
I'm like, oh, wow. My lucky day. But the way they talked, he probably wasn't going to come out for quite some time.
So you didn't try to get in or anything or knock on the door?
No. The way I understood, that was not something that was done. You just kind of hung outside and waited for one of the guys to come or go.
Right. And
Okay.
if there was a bunch of girls out there, you knew you were probably at the right place.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was in 77. You said in 79 you found out about their Magic Mountain concert in California. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, I'd been to the Great Adventure gigs in New Jersey, and at that point in time I had decided I better go back to college if I'm going to do anything with my life. So I was back at college at the University of Arizona, and I think there must have been a pen pal in LA who told me about the Magic Mountain gigs. So there I was, first week of classes had started, and I thought, this is crap. I'm this close to LA.
Yeah, you are.
I'm going to get me a plane ticket. And my cousin at the time, well, he still lives in LA. He lived in LA, so I called him up, said, hey, do you have somewhere I could stay? I'm going to come down for a couple days and see some concerts. And he said, sure, I'll pick you up from the airport, get your rental car. You can stay at my apartment. I said, sounds great.
Perfect.
So I got my, go ahead.
No, that was perfect that you had that opportunity.
Yeah. Awesome. So I got my plane ticket, flew off my classes, first week of classes, and just headed out to LA. And it was the 6 shows in 3 days things, August 29th, 30th, and 31st.
They were doing 2 a day, is that right? Like an afternoon and a night show?
Yeah, that's usually how it works in amusement parks, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, because it was all part of the ticket to get into
Right.
park. So, and of course there were quite a few fans there, and I didn't know anybody, and nobody knew me. So I just kind of mingled with them, and listened to what they were saying, and just hung out till the gig started that late afternoon, I guess, and evening. And a couple of the girls I heard talked about where the guys were staying at this hotel called Ladbroke. I guess it was somewhere in Hollywood.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I had no idea where it was. So I don't know if I went back to looked in a phone book, maybe.
Yeah, no Google Maps back then.
Yeah.
How about it?
Yeah, in my cousin's apartment, and I must have found it and found the address. So I thought, well, then the next day after I get in the park and pay my admission and whatever, maybe I'll go back out and see if I can find the place. Well, that was unsuccessful. So I went back into the park and just saw the gigs that day too. And then Friday comes along, the last day, and I'm thinking, well, something's got to give here.
It's now or never.
So, yeah, now or never. That's exactly right. So I had a piece of paper and a pen, I guess, and thought I'm going to write a little note to Eric and send it backstage. So kind of a backstory here is everybody remembers the official Bay City Roller magazine that was printed in the UK.
Yeah.
And there was a lady called Lorna who worked there. I don't know if she was like an editor or something.
Okay.
And I had gotten almost like pen pals with her. I had started writing to her, and she was so nice and wrote me back, and we just like,
oh wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, it was pretty cool that she didn't just think, oh, this is just some dumb fan, I'm not going to bother.
You were more mature.
Because I'm sure I wasn't the only one who tried to get friendly with anybody close to them. So I thought, well, in this note I'm going to write to Eric, I'm going to let him know that I know Lorna, and that maybe something like that would give me a little extra.
An edge, sure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
So
Inside track.
So I wrote this note, gave it to one of the security guards, and said, could he give it to Eric? And he said, yeah. So a little while later, I thought, well, I'm going to go back and see if he really did, because, you never know with these guys.
True.
So I asked the same guy and said, do you remember I gave you a note a little while ago to send to one of the guys? And he said, yeah. I said, so did you give it to him? Did he read it? He said, oh, yeah, I gave it to him. He was reading it. So I was like, yes.
Yes.
Of course, nothing came of it. I mean, it's not like Eric came out and said, Susan, I love you. Come see me.
Where are you? If only.
Yeah, if only. So after the gigs that night, walking in the parking lot back to my car, just a little way ahead of me, I heard these couple girls saying, oh, I'm going to tell Eric that joke tonight. And I'm like, ooh, these girls must be staying at the hotel. And their car's right there, and my car's right here.
Hello.
If I jump in my car and follow them.
Excellent idea.
That's one way to do it. Very good. That was meant to be.
So can you imagine that on the LA freeways on a Friday night, me trying to follow this?
Oh my God, that's so... Gosh, and it wasn't even as bad as it is now back then. I cannot imagine. Yeah. So were you able to stay with them and get there?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I must have stuck right on their bumper.
What happened? Come on, I want to hear it.
Yeah. So I saw them turn into the garage of the hotel, and I figured, well, we're obviously here. So I knew I couldn't go in the garage because I wasn't staying there. So I just went further down the street and found a place to park. Got out of the car, walked back to the entrance. I wasn't there too long, I don't think, before one of the limos came in, and I'm not really sure who all was in the limo, but it was a couple of the guys. I don't know if it was Alan and Derek or if Woody was with them. I know Duncan wasn't, so Duncan was off by himself too. So I thought, well, eventually Eric's going to have to come along. And sooner or later, another limo drove up, and Eric gets out, and I'm standing there right by the door, and he comes down. There's little steps down to the park, to the entrance. And I walk up to him and said, "Hi, Eric, I'm Susan. I sent you a note backstage. Did you get it?" And he said no. I thought, well, yeah, of course. And I said, well, the guy said he gave it to you and saw you reading it. I said, I wrote about Lorna from the magazine. And he said, oh, yeah. He said, how is she? I'm like, oh, she's fine, you know. And at that point, we were just walking in the door of the hotel, and standing there in the lobby was Jake, Jake Duncan.
He's our road manager, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And so Eric just turned to Jake and said, Jake, can you take care of my friend here? And
your friends already.
Then he just kind of turned away, went to the elevator, and went up to his room. I thought, okay, this is whatever. So Jake was really nice, though. He said, oh, he's tired. Don't think that he's like being rude to you or whatever. I said, oh, that's okay. I understand. And he said, but why don't you come back tomorrow? He said, then you might be able to see him, and he'll be, not too tired.
Oh, that's a full-fledged invitation.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I said, okay. And I thought, well, there's no point in me hanging around, and it was getting late, and I had to go back to, my cousin lived in Burbank, which is quite a little ways. So cut to the next day, which was the Saturday, September 1st. And around middle of the afternoon, I thought, well, I guess I'll try to call to see if they're still there, because I didn't know if they were going to be checking out and going somewhere else.
Right.
Called the hotel and said, can you tell me if the Bay City Rollers have checked out? And the woman said, I don't know, I need a name. And I said, Eric Faulkner. Thankfully he wasn't using one of his aliases, I guess, at that point. The Ricky Fender thing that he used. Yeah. So she said, yes, he's still here. He's in room whatever.
Wow.
Oh my gosh, she knew the room number.
That's surprising they gave that information out. That wouldn't happen today.
No, not today. So she probably just wanted to get me off the phone. Anyway. So I said thank you, and I hung up, and I changed my clothes, I guess. I don't know. I put on a skirt or something, so I looked a little more presentable. I jumped in the car, and since I knew how to get there now, then I got to the hotel, parked again, went out, got out of the car, walked into the hotel, just walked right into the elevator and pretended like, I belonged there. Nobody said nothing to me. So I found his room, and when I was walking down the little hallway, I saw a couple of girls kind of sitting, kind of collapsed almost in the hallway. And the one didn't look too good. So I don't know if she was drunk or high or whatever.
Dear. Wow.
Yeah. So I knocked on the door, and Eric pokes his head out, but he kind of just doesn't even see me. He just focuses in on those couple girls down at the across on the at the hall on the floor. So, and he said to the one, "Is she going to be okay?" And the girl said, "Yeah, she's all right."
Was it like he may have knew what was wrong with them, or just out of curiosity he was just concerned?
He might have known who they were from, staying there.
Oh, dear.
Yeah. So then it was kind of like, hey, I'm the one who knocked on your door. I said, like, do you remember I was here, saw you last night? And he was like, oh, yeah. He said, come back in about a half an hour, like I'm not together yet or something. I'm like, okay, what could I do? So he closed the door, so I went down to, like, the end of the hall where the elevators were, and I just hung out for about half an hour. Went back to the room, knocked on the door again, nothing happened. Oh, those girls were gone, so whatever. Knocked on the door again, and who comes to the door this time but Woody?
Oh,
sticks his head out.
2 for 1.
Yeah, 2 for 1. And he wasn't very polite. He said, "Stop knocking. We're trying to sleep."
Oh.
Oh, that's too bad.
Okay, well, I said, Eric told me to come back, but okay. And he closed the door, like case closed.
Yeah, like they were doing the good cop, bad cop routine, it looks like.
Possibly.
Oh.
Yeah.
So close, so close.
Yeah. So I thought, well, I guess that's it for now. So I just got back in the car, drove back to my cousin's apartment, went back to college, and, so that was the end of that little episode. So
back to real life.
Yeah. Back to my college classes and back to writing to my pen pals and writing to Lorna to tell her what happened. And
so you shared the experience with her?
Yeah, I did. And she was disappointed for me. But,
she was?
Aww. Yeah. She said, but you don't really want to see him, in that kind of a situation anyway.
That's a good point.
See him in London on his home turf. You don't want to be involved with
very true. Very true.
On the road, rock and roll, sex and drugs and all that kind of thing.
Good point. So you did go to London, isn't that right, in 1980?
Yes, I went on my spring break from college. I went over because I thankfully had a pen pal in London who had Eric's phone number and address.
Oh, wow.
Gosh. Oh, nice.
It's amazing how this stuff got out there. It's absolutely amazing.
Yeah. Well, she was from London, so, she hung out with the London girls. And
okay.
They just kind of knew these things.
Yeah. They had the intel.
Yeah. So I think it was the Sunday, one of the days around the time when the other guys were in South Africa making burning rubber.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, at one point, they got put in jail for some silly thing,
right.
I guess.
Yeah, some kind of a debt thing or something. So why, do you know why? Why was, I read about this, that he didn't go for that, but there was no reason, no bad reason. I wonder why he didn't do it. Do you know?
I've heard that it just because he was planning on producing that band called Dolly Mixture.
Oh, okay. So he had other things cooking.
Other obligations.
Okay.
Yeah, that he stayed in London. So.
So did you use the phone number or the address? Did you go scope it out?
Yeah, I didn't use the phone number. I guess I was afraid to do the phone number, but I went. And that sounds silly. Afraid to use the phone, but not afraid to go right to the flat.
Yeah.
That's great.
So yeah, I buzzed on the buzzer that's outside the door because, of course, it was a building with a locked door, and so I guess he was so used to fans coming around, he just buzzed the door and let me come up.
Oh wow!
And and he opens up the door and said, "Can you get me some cigarettes?" I'm like, okay, this is how I get,
Sure, whatever it takes.
Sure, but, you need to tell me where to go because I've never been around here before. So he kind of pointed in a direction and gave me some, I guess, a fine £5 note or something to go with to get the cigarettes. So I did, and I went back, and he just kind of took the cigarettes, took the change, said thanks, and closed the door, and that was the end of it.
Oh, okay. Thanks very much. So it's kind of like what we call like an apartment complex, where the main door is like the lobby area, and there's other doors where the people live inside. So when he pushed the button, it wasn't to let you into his flat; it was into the building itself. Then you had to go up to whatever number he lived in. Okay, I was just picturing it in my head. Oh, okay. Yeah. So thanks for the cigarettes. See you later, kind of a thing.
yeah, kind of a thing. Yeah.
Was that
because I think he was busy with trying to get the other guys out of jail. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, so you might have bad timing that time.
Bad timing. Yeah.
Did you go back that trip?
I went back the next day because I was going to meet my pen pal, the one who gave me his address. Mm-hmm. And while I was waiting for her, he came out, a girl who I later found out was Mariella Frostrup.
Who's that? I'm sorry.
Who's that?
She turned into being
Tam's
a television presenter over there.
Wasn't she the one that Tam was quote unquote engaged to?
He always insisted she wasn't his girlfriend. He told me that a couple times, and he told other people that she was just a friend. She was just there to help him out.
What was her name again? I'm sorry.
Whatever. Mariella, Mariella, Frostrup, Frostrup.
Oh, I'm confusing her with the gal that Tam got engaged with.
Oh, I think the woman that Tam was engaged to, wasn't her name Marcella?
I'm confusing the two.
I know
sorry,
I've talked about now.
Sorry, I've confused the two. Yeah. Sorry, Susan. All right, so so they went back the next day, and he came out of the flat with her.
Yeah, and they went down the street, I guess, to a store or something, and then my pen pal came along, and I said, I just saw him. He was walking down the street with some girl, and and I think we saw them come back eventually, but then. So basically, I never saw him again the rest of that trip. So
not buzz into the building. No buzz into the building that time. Were you discouraged by this, or did you want to keep going and give it another try?
No, I wasn't discouraged. No. Mm-mm. And I did go and visit Lorna then at that point.
Okay.
I visited her in their offices, and she more or less told me too, like, don't give up, you just keep trying. But I went back to college, and I gave up again after that year. I just thought, I can't do this. This isn't working for me. So I just got some other little jobs to help earn some money and save up, because I just had it in my head that I was going to have to move over to London for a while.
Ah, okay. Girls on a mission.
Yeah. I was on a mission. So I went back over in April of 1981.
Okay.
And this time I called him before I went. It was Easter Sunday. I think it was April 5th was Easter Sunday that year, 1981. And I told him that I was planning a trip over. In fact, I was leaving that night. And would I be able to see him at all? Was he going to be around? And he said, yeah, I'm going to be here, because this was right after he got back to London from being in New Jersey.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Almost everybody but me seemed to know that they were in New Jersey.
That was crazy. They were so close. I mean, so close.
And I just didn't know.
Mm.
I didn't know either, Susan, so you and I were in the same boat.
We were in the minority, Laura.
Yes, we were.
So he sounded, real nice, and said, was I going to bring my whips and chains if I came over? And I'm like,
oh, my.
Whoa.
Oh, my.
I said, sure. He said, okay, sounds good.
All right.
Okay, I'll see you. He said, all right. So then I got there on the Monday morning, the overnight flight, which, of course, then I didn't do anything that day because I needed, So the next day, April 7th, Tuesday, I called him up around noontime, I guess, and said, remember me, I talked to you on Sunday, and you said I could come round if I came over? And he said, yeah, I'm home today. So I said, okay, I'll get there, you'll see me when I get there. I hopped on a train because I was staying at a pen pal's house a little north of London.
Okay.
And got there dead on 2 o'clock, and he let me right in. There was no hesitation this time. And I spent 3 hours with him in his flat, just talking, and he played me Ricochet, which nobody had heard yet.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. Well, I think he felt bad because I kept saying, I didn't know you guys were in New Jersey. I live in Pennsylvania. I was only like 100 miles away, and I didn't know. And I think he felt bad for me.
Aww.
So then he said, does it meet with my approval, the album? I said, oh, yeah, it's great. So and we just talked about general stuff, music and just whatever popped into our heads. We talked politics, even, because we all know what politics are like now. So we were talking about Ronald Reagan, because I think he had just gotten shot like a couple weeks before that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, just anything that popped into our heads, we just talked. Although the weird thing was he never got me anything to drink nothing alcoholic, no tea, no coffee, no nothing.
Oh, guys, they don't know how to host. That's not too unusual.
And of course, the phone was ringing off the hook. Every time he'd sit down to start chatting with me, then the phone would ring again. But I had a really nice time, and he was nice, and it was awesome.
Oh, that's great.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So, 5 o'clock, he said he needed to go out, whether he really did or not. But, that was a way to get rid of me. So, went down in the elevator with him, and he said, I got to go this way. You want to go that way? I thought, how do you know which way I want to go? He meant, don't try to follow me.
Yeah.
So that was April 7th, 1981.
And did you see him any more during that trip?
I saw him twice more, yeah. Once to have some photos taken, which I didn't like the way they turned out, but that was okay.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah. And that day, my friend and I had gone to see Les because she was a Les fan, so we went to see him and had pictures taken with him too. So, of course, I didn't tell either one that I was going to see the other.
Yeah.
As we always know that there was that little bit of competition between the two of them all the time.
So when did you decide that you were going to move over? Or was this the trip that you moved over in 81?
No, that was another year, yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I went back over in February of 82 for a short visit. But really didn't see much of him then either. I think I only saw him once or twice coming and going from his flat. Never really had any quality time that trip.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought, well, it's okay because I'm definitely moving over in May of 82.
What made you decide to make the move over?
Well, I guess I just wanted to see where it would lead if I could get any further with him, to be honest.
Yeah, the ocean was a big big obstacle.
Yeah, that wasn't helping.
No.
So,
location.
Yep. Thought,
so
you
were hopeful that if you moved over, maybe something could come of it.
Exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So I moved over in early May of 1982, and my friend Lorraine, who I had finally met, we were pen pals, and I finally met her in February of 82. And we knew that he had just moved, but we didn't know where. He was in a temporary place, because I guess Lorraine must have gotten his phone number from at the new temporary place. So we knew from the first 3 numbers that he was still in the same area as he had been.
Good detective work.
Yep, we were good at that. So we just said to each other, well, this is what we're going to do. We know that the area he's in London, so we're just going to walk around for a couple of days and just see what happens, see if we maybe run into him. You never know. Well, darn if that first day we walked around for maybe about half an hour to 45 minutes and didn't we run into him on the street.
Wow.
That's amazing.
It was meant to be. It was meant to be. So he was coming from one direction, we were coming from another direction, and we looked at him, he looked at us, and it was kind of like a collective, oh my God.
Surprise.
So he said to us, stay there, don't move. So we're like, okay, whatever.
He was happy to see you.
Bank. Yeah, happy to see you. Yeah, just stay there. So he was going to the bank. He came back from the bank, and we just stood there and chatted with him for a while. We said, are you living around here now? And he said, yeah, for now. He said, but, I'm moving to a permanent house in a few months. I guess the new house had to be fixed up or something.
Oh.
So, but he started talking about this band that he had just started managing called RSVP, and that they were starting to do some gigs around London. So he told us when the next one was going to be, and that, if we wanted to, we could come to it. We're like, yeah, okay. So after a while, he went back to where he was living, and we didn't want to follow him because we didn't want to look like, so. But we knew the street then where he was living.
Mm-hmm.
So the gig that this band was going to do was, I think, in another week or so. But for some reason, Lorraine didn't believe him. I did. I thought, well, I'm going. So she stayed home in Northampton, and I was in London, so I got on the tube and went to the club. It was called The Venue. It was one of the bigger clubs in London. And I paid my admission and walked in, and there he was, standing there talking to some people. And I thought, well, I'm right. He's there. So I just walked right up to him. I didn't care who he was talking to, and I said, hi. I said, so this is your band here playing tonight? And he said, yeah. So, and the RSVP gigs just became a thing for me and Lorraine. They did them every few weeks or so, and we'd look in the music papers. He'd either tell us himself where they were playing, or we'd look in the music papers. And so we did that for a lot of the time that we were there. Yeah, I mean, that I was living there. And
during that time, were you able to have, more personal interaction with Eric?
Oh, yeah, because we'd have our drinks, and he'd sit at a table with us, or he'd sit behind us while the band was playing. Half the time we didn't even know he was there, but he was, wanted to see our reaction to the band, I guess.
Oh, well, that's not conducive to romance. I'm talking romance.
No, but he always did talk to us. I mean, it was always he never acted like we shouldn't be there, or why are you coming, or
I'm sure he appreciated the support.
Yeah, I think he did, because there were no other fans that went. We were the only ones that ever went, except for two other girls who Lorraine was friends with. They came a couple times, but they didn't go to all the ones that we went to. So,
how long did you live in London?
A year and a half.
Oh, wow.
So then we can switch over to Mr. McEwen.
Okay.
When I got my flat, I had no idea where it was going to be, but when I went to it and rented it and thought, well, what the heck, I think this is right around where my other friend took me to see Les. And yeah, it was. He lived on Bassett
the whole world.
Ladbroke Grove, and I lived on Chesterton Road, which was just one street behind Les's street. So,
just as a coincidence.
It was. It
Wow.
wasn't planned. It really wasn't planned. But it was a happy coincidence.
Yeah,
I was
sure.
glad of it.
Definitely.
What area of London would that have been?
Yeah, it was called Ladbroke Grove. It was more...
Like Chelsea, Kensington?
a little northwest of that area.
Okay. I like to visualize.
Yeah. So since I knew where I was, one day I just thought, well, I think I'm going to go around and just see if he's home and if I can have a chat. And because Pecco worked as a manager in a nightclub, I think. So
this
she
is still
worked,
83. That's still time in 83, 84?
This is still 82. Yeah.
82. Okay. So what's going on with, he's doing solo work then, right, at this time?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. So I just introduced myself to him when he came. It was funny. Him and Pecco lived in a bedsit that probably wasn't any bigger than what I lived in. And there was this big window, and he opened up the window and came and sat on the ledge while I stood on the stairs outside his building. He looked like a little leprechaun, just kind of crouched there on the It was hysterical.
That's fun.
And
go ahead.
that first day, I must have talked to him for about 3 or 4 hours. We just chatted and chatted and chatted, and he's so good to talk to. He really is great to talk to, as Les.
Did he offer you a drink?
No, we didn't either.
All right, so from, I guess, 83 until 2007, you hadn't seen Eric until you went to the Edinburgh Fest. Is that right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that must have been a fun event. It was a fun event. I was there.
No, from 83 to it was from 90 to 2007.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, because after I went back in 83, then I went over a couple times. I went over twice in 84, once in 85, and then they moved to Hastings, and then I went over there and stayed a couple summers.
And did you see Eric during those times as well?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, so you saw him quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
In what kind of settings?
Pardon?
In what kind of settings? Was he still doing gigs?
Well, before he moved to Hastings, when he was still in London, I'd always see him in his house, in his Camden house.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. That Les was so nice to give me the address and phone number of that house.
Oh, nice.
One of the times I saw him.
Very nice.
I think he did it just to get back at Eric. Yeah. Anyway. So I spent a couple summers in Hastings, and Lorraine and I, because him and Karen then got their little band going.
Oh, so at this point you knew he was unavailable then?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I got you. So
But
it was
still,
so the goal has changed.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, at that point we knew, both Lorraine and I knew that our days were numbered.
Yeah, yeah.
But we still, enjoyed going to the gigs, and it was, well, when they lived in Hastings, that was the seaside town, so you had the beach and the summer weather, and it was kind of nice just to be in a seaside town for those years.
Yeah, for a nice summer.
Yeah, and we went to, I think every gig they did, which I can't even begin to count how many there were. I mean, we traveled all over from Plymouth to Kent to Scotland and everywhere in between. Yeah. And I usually had to drive. We'd have to rent cars to drive if we couldn't get a bus or a train. And one time we ran out of gas on the motorway.
Oh my gosh, that was really brave of you to drive over there.
For my gig, yeah. Yeah, we had some good times. We really had some good times. I wouldn't trade any of it for anything.
And then we bring it up to present. There was a 2007 event in Edinburgh, and then 2018 and 2019 in Hawick, where I know it was a while since you had seen him, so it was nice to see you two together again.
Yeah.
Did that go as well as you had hoped?
Yeah, he was quite nice with me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, because things there for a while hadn't gone too well.
What do you mean?
Back in the 80s.
What?
So
What do you mean?
Happy to see. Well, with Karen Cass around, things, she wasn't too thrilled about having us around.
Oh.
At the gig and stuff.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, because she kind of knew we had history with him, and there was some bad blood there between us and her.
Because you were fans?
Well,
because you were roller fans?
Yeah, well, because she knew that we knew him. We knew him personally rather than just as fans. She didn't like that too well.
Oh, that's weird. You would think that she'd just be, more appreciative of the fan support.
Yeah, well. So, yeah, things weren't too good for a couple of years. But then, since 1990 was the last time I'd seen him, and he knew I had disappeared off the face of the earth, basically, until that fest in 2007.
Mm-hmm. Well, he kind of did too.
Yeah, he did too. Yeah, he was
very true.
Off the grid for a while. So yeah, he was nice to me in 07 and in 18 and 19.
Yeah, he was great.
Oh yeah, you got to see him in Hawick. That was awesome.
Yeah, that was. Yeah.
Hopefully in 2021 we'll get to go over again, because they always do a nice event.
We sure hope so.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's probably our wrap now. So thank you, Susan, for sharing your stories with us. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Susan. It sounds like you have some really nice memories of those times.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, I do.
Thanks for sharing them.
Yeah, I appreciate you listening.
No problem.
And anybody who is going to listen.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Well,
Thanks so much.
Thank you for telling your story. It was really nice to hear it.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
And thanks to you, our listeners, friends, and friends we've yet to meet. If you have some adventures and memories you'd like to share, please send us an email at baycityrollersfanevents@gmail.com. And also you can keep up to date on all things Bay City Roller Fan Events at our website, baycityrollerfanevents.com. Thanks for listening.